He's basically saying, I'm a doctor, I know she's dead, like she's not breathing.
Was he panicked or?
He was very shouty.
Right, okay.
And then he's like, I'm doing compressions. And then they're like, don't hang. And then he hangs up.
Just a quick disclaimer, the content presented in this podcast is based on real events and may contain graphic descriptions of violence, crime scenes and other disturbing material. Listener discretion is advised. This episode is sponsored by Think Forensic.
Think Forensic are a one-stop shop for all things forensic science and crime solving. They hold experience days, as well as corporate events, team building events, and general education for primary school right the way up to university level, as well as other events and consultancy. There's also a shop where you can get your hands on all things crime solving, from evidence gathering to packaging and collecting evidence, as well as other forensic science equipment.
For more information or to book on an experience day, please visit the website.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Grave Secrets. We're your hosts. I'm Beth.
And I'm Annie, and today we've got another one of the Eyes and Ears. So this is actually episode 18 today.
18 now.
We're nearly on 20. We nearly got 20 episodes out.
I'll have a little party hat on at that point.
20 on the front. Yeah. But we have hit 100 subscribers.
Nice.
25k views
That is
on
mad.
YouTube.
That is really mad.
It is really good. But how have we got all those views and not that many subscribers? Can you just
excuse me, guys,
subscribe to us? Because we want to get the 1,000 so we can monetize the
Yes.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And we're quite far away from the 1,000.
Well,
we've got loads
it's
of
only a
views.
matter of time.
We've got loads of views, so we're not
can
worried. So to start today, I have got a little fact for you.
Okay.
And I heard this yesterday, and it was on the Shits and Gigs podcast, so absolutely nothing to do with true crime.
Right.
But it's one that I listen to unwind, and if I want to laugh, I'll listen to their podcast.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with true crime at all.
Nice.
And I sent it to my group chat because we're always sending stupid facts to each other. And it was, did you know that the average person walks past 36 murderers in their lifetime? Don't you think that's actually crazy?
That's mad.
36.
Is that like, so I know a guy that once accidentally killed someone. I think we might have mentioned it before, where he accidentally killed someone, but like didn't even go to prison or anything because it was legitimately
It
like
was
she'd basically
manslaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, does it mean that kind of murderer?
Yeah, probably. It probably means all of them
Yeah.
together. I think they've just sort of grouped
They've
here.
not- yeah, they've not-
Yeah, because 36 is a lot.
A lot.
And I
Yeah.
suppose depending where you live as well, I can't imagine me walking around the part of Sheffield that I'm from and bumping into many.
No, but then it's weird, isn't it? Because you think, like, to what extent would you see them? And, like, is it just a walk past? Or is it that you might have met someone in a pub and said hi? Or
Yeah, probably.
very strange.
Because
Very
I
strange.
thought 36 was very high. So anyway,
Massively
that
high.
was just my little...
I would have thought that I would probably never, like, unless it's, like, work-related, I would have never just bumped into a murderer.
Yeah, just randomly.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Well, you have.
So we've started with that bombshell, but today is going to be a little bit more chill, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We wanted to do something a little bit more... not as hard hitting because
Yeah.
we've been doing lots of the case studies recently.
Yeah, big intense
and the
cases.
ones we've been covering do seem to be quite intense, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is more like of a little chat about what we've been watching, listening to. So any like documentaries, any podcasts, and I've got to admit some of mine are not all crime related. So some are a little bit more lighthearted than others, and some are not true crime either.
Okay, yeah.
Which is normally what I stick to. But the first one that I've been watching is Teens Who Kill. And I know I've just said, oh, it's not that hard hitting this time. And then we go straight in there with Teens Who Kill. And I am up to, I think, episode 7 out of 10 at the moment. And this is on, it was on True Crime UK, and you can now watch it on ITVX. So it's just one series and 10 episodes out at the moment.
Can I just say, ITVX are popping them out, aren't they?
They are. They've got some good ones, haven't they?
Yeah, they are.
And this one covers, so each episode covers a different teen killer. So it's not so much focused on the victims, which I wasn't too keen on at first, because I was like, there's not a lot given to the victims, but there is like psychologists on there, and they are talking about the psychology of it more. So it is more killer focused.
Yes, it's more about the like reasons behind and what drove them to kill, rather than victim focused.
Yeah.
But I think that is probably why they are an easier watch. I think a lot of the documentaries that we watch, like if it is from a interest from our point of view, do you know what I mean? Like just an intrigue kind of thing, then generally they are the ones that are more killer focused.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder when you are
Victim focused. Yeah, it is.
Because you are talking about people, you're talking about real victims.
Yeah.
And again, we've talked about the monsters, you know, that killers are monsters and you don't want to put a real face to them. And quite a lot of that type of documentary is saying how, you know, abnormal they are in comparison to us. So it feels a lot safer to watch almost.
Yeah.
You feel a bit like, oh gosh, this would never happen. And like, so I think, I think what I'm trying to say is that's maybe why it feels easier
to watch. Yeah, definitely. So these teens that kill, I mean, we don't want to do any spoilers or anything, so we've not done any cases for you this week or told you about any of them. But I would say to watch episode 4, which is Sharon Louise Carr, and she was the youngest killer.
Yes.
And she was just 12 when she killed an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And they say that for a teen killer to kill an adult is very, very rare.
Yeah.
And the way in which she did it, and she also got away with it for 2 years until something else then happened further down the line.
Yeah.
And that's when she got...
Like it all unravelled.
It all unravelled, and it was because of diary entries. So while she was in prison...
Wow.
What she wrote in her diary... Gave away everything
previously
else, and it was the murder of this girl that was unsolved, and the diary entries were actually horrific. She was later known as the Devil's Daughter.
Wow,
it was that bad.
And she was 15, you said?
12. She was 12 when she murdered, but in her diary she was talking about getting sexual gratification from killing.
Wow.
And how long did she get now? I don't know if I've... so she got sentenced to 14 years in 2011.
Right, okay.
And she's still not out now.
Well, yeah.
So she was moved to Broadmoor.
Yes.
And then she had an incident in Broadmoor where she tried to kill someone.
Right.
And they moved her into normal prison.
Yeah.
And then she got moved around the prisons quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then when she was due for a hearing, they just turned her down point blank because they said that now she still poses a danger to society.
Oh, yeah.
And this was in June 1992 when she killed. So in 1992, she got 14 years. So she should have been out... When would she have been out then? So she should have been out in 2011.
Oh, right, okay, but still in.
And she's still in now.
That's not the kind of murderer I'd like to meet on the street, to be honest.
No, and she was just... It showed some footage of her, and she was just... There was nothing behind the eyes.
That reminds me of another case. I don't know whether it's the same one, but she was a young girl that had killed another young girl. But she'd actually been round to the house, like, the following day with the mum and gone to the mum and like been like, oh, is she playing out today?
And she'd killed her.
And she'd killed her.
Oh.
Yeah.
God, no.
And apparently when the police car drove past, she was just like stood at the end of her drive smiling.
Oh, God. It's horrible. But this does actually go back and look into her life and her upbringing. And psychologists then sort of try and pinpoint where this started.
Yeah.
And she did have quite a rough upbringing. She didn't have any love as a child.
I would say 12 is very young to be talking about getting sexual satisfaction or
But then
gratification
again, there's people that are brought up bad that, we know in everyday life that don't turn out to be killers.
Yeah.
And they actually said that when they brought her back from Broadmoor into normal, like, state prison, they said that the psychologists and the medical experts had said there was no treatment for her.
Yeah, okay.
Like, they were no longer treating her because nothing was effective. She wasn't responding to any treatment.
Proper sociopath.
So nothing could be done. And then, they were putting her back in prison. Yeah.
That reminds me of, again, another episode of that Teens Who Kill. There was a young boy on there that had actually killed both of his parents.
Yep, I saw that.
Yeah. And then, again, got away with it, went on holiday with his girlfriend with his parents' money and was just living a life as if he'd not just killed both of his parents. But the defence lawyer in that case said that had he been diagnosed with autism earlier on,
right,
he didn't think that he'd have gone on to kill his parents. That annoyed me a little bit. Now, I'm not a forensic psychologist, but I don't think that was enough of a reason, given his other behaviours, to say if he had have been diagnosed earlier, then he wouldn't have done that. Because there was a lot of other, again, evidence to suggest that it was part of his personality to be quite manipulative, calculated, and have no regard for others. And that's not something that has any bearing on whether or not you're autistic.
I was just going to say, because he killed his parents because he wanted to keep up with more of a lavish lifestyle and he's got credit cards out and stuff. What's that got to do with being autistic?
Yeah, exactly.
He killed him for a reason that is nothing to do
with that.
With that at all.
Yeah. I can understand the being misunderstood maybe or not feeling like you've been heard. But yeah, like you say, that's not why he'd killed them.
With him, though, I found it also a bit scary because he was from a very sort of middle-class background. He was from a nice area. His parents were very, very supportive of him. He was very sporty. They'd brought him up doing sports. He was very academic. And he still killed his parents.
Yeah. But again, and I think this is something that we quite often see with people that go on to then become serial offenders, a very high level of intelligence. From a very early age, he was very, very intelligent.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, unfortunately, when incredibly intelligent people are bored, they then resort to more negative behaviours and seeking out ways to amuse themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does become serious crime.
Yeah, as in they're just bored of any interaction that's not stimulating enough for them. Yeah. So these, when I was watching them, like I said, I've not finished the whole series yet. I always watch them in the morning while I'm getting ready.
Yeah.
So I always have my iPad on in my dressing room while I'm getting ready. And I found quite a lot of these really shocking. And I don't know if it's because of the age.
Yeah.
And when they say, that she was just 12 at the time, you think, I think to someone who's 12, and I'm like, I could not imagine.
Yeah, it's good when you've got a reference of, because you do forget like
how young a 12-year-old is.
Yeah, definitely.
So they'd be like, 7 or 8 at school.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so little. Like, when we go into schools and you see year 7s and 8s, you wouldn't think any of them could be capable of killing.
No.
And with the Sharon Louise Carr one that I'm talking about as well, she killed an 18-year-old. Like, how did she move the body? How does she move stuff? Like, she's not a 12-year-old isn't that much of a strong person compared to an 18-year-old, you wouldn't have thought. The 18-year-old was on her way home from a nightclub when she got attacked.
Yeah, it's being brave enough to even think that you could take on someone like older and stronger than you as well, isn't it?
And it was totally unprovoked as well, which was really sad. It was... I think they said that in the end, they thought that she was jealous of her and wanted her sort of life, but she couldn't. She was 12.
Yeah.
How could she
No.
Do you know?
But again, children at that age are in ego state.
Yeah.
Everything you do is in ego state.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes there is just less of a switch that says like, right, okay, there's a difference between, you know, not wanting to share things and then deciding that you're going to kill someone.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like with these cases, they're that far into their ego state that they can't flip from realising the consequence of their actions.
Yeah. So I found this one really interesting, and from the psychological point of view as well, really interesting. I like it when they have the professionals on that talk about, you know, what they think and give their opinions on things.
It did make me think we should interview like a defence lawyer or something like that.
Oh, yeah, we should, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
That's an idea for... we've not had a guest on for a while, so...
Yeah,
that'd be a good one. What was the podcast that you were... Was it a podcast that you were listening to that you wanted to...
So I listen to quite a lot of snippets. I'm like now, don't hate me if you are a middle-aged woman, but I'm quite like a middle-aged woman where I watch videos on Facebook Watch.
Okay.
So
I'm learning something new about you every day. Like, because technically I am more the middle-aged woman age-wise.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe
so
you should
I'm seeing
start.
how I should be acting.
So that's where I usually watch things. So I actually listen to mostly, because I'll do the same as you, where I'll just have it on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. But it's called 10 to Life by Annie Elise. So she's an American podcaster.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you can get it on all of the
normal
usual
podcast
platforms.
things.
Yeah. But I just watch it on Facebook Watch. But I like her because she does it on her own, and my God, am I now realising, you know, how tough that is to do just on your own.
Yeah.
Because with us, at least we can split up sections of case studies and discuss it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
we're
in a way
talking
that-
to each other as well. Like, we talk each other through the cases, don't we, and stuff.
And quite often, if I've missed something, you'll have remembered it, and vice versa.
But if they're not doing the video, you could actually have a script.
She is, though.
Oh, she's on video as well. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, although I have seen that some American podcasters, maybe British ones too, have a little prompter. Teleprompter, yeah. So who knows? Anyway, I just think it's incredible when they do it on their own.
Yeah.
But she did mention that she's got like a team of researchers.
Okay.
So I guess that makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she, I think, spells everything out for you really nicely. She paces the episodes quite nicely. She always gives a bit of a background on the victim. And then it isn't... There's a couple of other people that I've like listened to, and sometimes they fall into being quite opinionated or more opinionated than I think I like listening to. Whereas she keeps it pretty just fact-based. And she might say, like, I mean, obviously we spoke in last week's episode about like Kempson's disgusting behaviour. Like, yes, that's a motive from my perspective. So she'll do things similar to that.
Yeah.
But she'll not say like, oh, I think he should have got X amount of years.
Yeah. And I think we tend to keep it like that as well, don't we? We've got the facts there, and I think people can make their own mind up about it. So, like you said, every so often we'll chip in on what we think about it, but I think it's nice to let the listener, like she does, come to your own conclusion of what you think.
Because no one's ever going to agree on things like that. Do you know what I mean? So maybe we should have, I'm getting all the ideas now. Maybe we should have an interview with someone that believes in the death sentence. It'd be like going back to citizenship in school when you've got to argue the point.
Okay. Who are they arguing against, though? Because I'm not good at debating.
I'd give it a good go.
You can do that. I'll film you.
You can sit in the corner with some popcorn.
I'll do the short clips.
But yeah, so I think she's really good. And Kendall Ray, I think we mentioned right at the beginning.
I don't know if we have mentioned Kendall Ray, you know, and I don't know why, because we both do listen to Kendall Ray, Yeah, she's really good, isn't she? And I like how she sometimes gets the families, the victims' families involved.
Yeah.
And gets their direct sort of quotes and what they want to say in the episode across.
And she does it with her husband as well.
Yeah.
She's got a podcast with her husband. She does some on her own, but then she's got a podcast with her husband. And they sometimes don't always agree, which I think, again, is a nice dynamic.
Yeah.
Because then you see how realistic it is. She does quite a lot of advocacy for ongoing cases or unsolved cases. So she will talk quite a lot about missing persons cases. And again, in America, there's a lot of like reference numbers for things that are unsolved if you've got any information.
Yeah, she
and
puts like case stuff in, doesn't she?
Yeah, it's very, again, victim based. So I just binge those all the time.
I think my favourite true crime one has been the same true crime podcast for so long, and it is They Walk Among Us.
Yeah.
And
see, I've never really listened. I've listened to a few, but not to the extent
and I think he's called Benjamin Britten that does the narration. And there's so many, if you look through their reviews, it's hilarious because it's like, oh, his voice is so slow, like listen to him on 1x5 speed.
That's probably why I've not stuck with it.
But I do really like him because I find it's like the true crime, but I can also relax into it and just think about that.
Yeah, zone out.
Yeah, zone out from everything else. And that is the one that I used to listen to all the time when I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I'd end up falling asleep eventually. Even though he's talking about horrific things, his voice is quite... on the same level. So I do really like that one. And I know a lot of people are divided, but I just think the way they cover the cases, the way that you can tell it's in-depth research.
Yeah, so
and
detail.
I like that there's a lot of detail in there. Some that I come across, you listen and you think, have they actually fully researched this, or is it just like Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Because I always use, like, I know when we're researching, I'll use like documentaries, news articles, stuff online, like any interviews that I can find. I'll go on YouTube and see if I can find interviews with the people, with the family. And I feel like we use so many different resources, but you can tell when some people don't.
Well, there's some people, and I just think, I don't know how they do it. Like, they'll do a whole case in like 10 minutes, and I think, how have you possibly
we'd have no
done
chance
that?
of that.
No.
We're on an hour and a half normally, aren't we? Like an hour and 20 by the time I've done the editing.
Speaking of things that help you get to sleep, though, so I'm going to have to find it. So I like audio, but again, old for my age. I like an audio book to fall asleep to. But I go with all of the really old audio books.
Right.
So I'm currently in a PG... Now, some people say Woodhouse, some people say Wodehouse.
Okay.
So he's the author.
Right.
But he's written, like, just an incredible amount of novels. But they're all... It seems like an early version of what would be, like, Sherlock type thing.
Okay.
Like, he's got his little sidekick called Jeeves. And they're just... Well, I say short stories. It's like a 5-hour long YouTube video.
5 hours. God.
But I love them. I've got really into them. And some of them they're all called like quite nice things. I say nice, like Bones in the Shed or Bones at the Beach, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, just really
I'm surprised you
into those.
do the audiobooks because we both, when it comes to me and you, it's always like Beth's read the physical book and I've listened to the audio side of it because I'm normally driving, travelling around, and if I'm driving Sheffield and I've got an hour there, an hour back, it will always be like a book or a podcast or something, whereas you prefer to physically read, whereas I don't feel like I have the patience to sit and physically read, whereas you find it relaxing, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Especially now the sun's out because you can just sit in the garden and read.
Yeah,
and
no,
then
I couldn't
get
think of
lost.
anything worse. I'd put my earphones in and that'd be it. Listen, I'm much better at taking in the information.
Just an FYI, he has got an audiobook. It's 6 hours long. It's called Eggs, Beans and Crumpets.
Are you going to listen to that one?
I highly recommend that one.
Have you already listened to that?
Oh, I've listened to them all. But the problem is
and crumpets.
But the problem is I fall asleep, you see.
Yeah, so then you don't actually listen to it fully.
Book-wise, because you mentioned it, there's been a couple that I've been reading. So, Chopper.
Right.
Have you heard of Chopper?
No.
So, best way to describe him would be the, like, Australian version of Bronson in the UK.
Right.
So Gangster has written his own autobiography. There's actually a film about him as well, Chopper, like there is Bronson. Mark Brandon Reed. And it's just interesting. There's a lot of things where he can talk about offences that he's committed because the people have died now, or he's been in prison numerous times. He actually chopped off the sides of his ears.
His own?
His own ears, yeah, because he's always been very gang-based, someone else in the prison had effectively said, like, we're coming after you. So he'd then gone to the guards and been like, you need to move me because otherwise they're going to kill me. And the guards were like, no, we're not moving you. So he chopped his own ears off and got someone else to help him, but chopped his own ears off so that he'd have to get moved then into the infirmary, and then they'd put him into the, like, psych ward, basically. So, but he did it completely intentionally. And he was like, well, Van Gogh did it, so...
So why can't I?
So I knew I'd be all right. But yeah, he's just fascinating. Criminal, obviously, so, you know, he's not a good person.
Yeah, but interesting to read about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm reading another one called, again, completely, because that's like his own autobiography.
Yeah.
Whereas then I'm reading Police at the Funeral by Marjorie Allingham.
Right, okay, I've not heard of that one.
Just a real, well, no, because it's a real old charity shop book find. Yeah. And a really old, like, very old English language type.
It's weird how different taste we've got, isn't it? I don't know how we actually agree on cases, because our taste is different. Like, I mean, look at us now. Look at Beth in her bright pink dress, and look at her hair today as well. You can tell we're not at school anymore. Yeah. When I saw that on Insta, I was like, yep, I knew that. 6-week holidays. And then here's me, like, just in sage with my normal hair and makeup. Just in sage. Yes, I don't actually know how we tend to agree on anything in life.
But we do,
but we do, yeah. And one that I have been watching is what I was telling you about before. It's called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
Yeah, funny you should say about not agreeing on this, because I've watched the first 2.
Okay.
I fell asleep during the 3rd.
Okay.
Her voice. She's got a really odd accent, and I don't know whether it's just in that.
I would read the book. I was going to suggest this to you. So is what first happened when I was working away. I was working on actually quite a big crime scene, and I had a 4-hour drive on a Sunday night, and then on a Friday night I had a 4-hour drive back. And I thought, what can I listen to? And someone had recommended these books, so I obviously got them in the audiobooks.
Just say the title again, because I did clip in, so I don't know whether people will have heard it.
A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
So it's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
Yeah,
right.
But I think there's 3 books. So there's Good Girl Gone Bad, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and one other one, and I can't remember what it's called now.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, it'll come. And I used to listen to these books when I was driving back from work to sort of like dissociate myself.
Yeah.
And even though they are crime related, they're not really.
Yeah.
So these books have now been turned into a series. So they've only done the first book at the moment. So the first book is Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I actually loved the books. So I really, really liked them. I couldn't wait to read the next one. And then when I heard it was a new crime drama, I watched it and I was a bit like you. I was like, not really getting into it.
Yeah.
But I did watch it all the way through.
I do like the outfits.
I did watch it all the way through. It's on BBC and it's only 6 episodes. And it was sort of like for like with the characters, how I expected Pip to be.
Yeah.
She was...
Yeah, that's really
in real
nice.
life, which I think was nice. So yeah, if they bring the other ones out, I mean, I do think the books were better.
Was it a good ending then?
So I think,
Obviously we'll not do spoilers.
We'll not spoil it, yeah.
But I will persevere.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying it, but you know, and you just think,
just it's average.
Now I've started it, I'll finish it kind of thing, rather than what's going to happen next.
So with the book, I found the book much better. I find that the crime drama skips a lot, but it's going to because it's only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So things that I thought happened in the book didn't happen in the drama. And I was like, I'm disappointed that didn't happen.
Yeah, but wait. Yeah, what about that?
Yeah, well, this happened. Well, what about him? So I think if you read the book, you will like it a lot better.
Cool.
Then I've also been watching, I've started watching today, Homicide LA on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's not something I normally watch. I normally steer away from the US crime stuff. But these episodes are actually really good.
I heard it's quite like seedy underbelly of like America.
Yeah. So this one is the first one that I've started watching is in Hollywood and I've not finished it yet, but it is a music producer.
Right, okay.
And there's like a low-level actress that's found murdered in his house.
Right, okay.
And he's saying it is suicide and that she came and she killed herself because the
Murdered
gunshot
okay.
through her mouth.
Right.
And he's saying it wasn't him, she killed herself. And they look at the angle of the gun in her mouth and look at the gunshot. And it turned out that the gunshot was facing downwards.
Right, yeah.
So it'd gone in and gone down, whereas if you were shooting yourself, it'd be straight in or it would be upwards.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at the moment. And they're just looking at the evidence, they're looking at the blood patterns or the blood spatter and trying to match up what's happened.
Okay. Oh, that sounds like
so it is
more
quite a good one because it is, like you said, a bit more of like the underground stuff. He lives in a massive mansion and you look at it from the outside, it's like a castle. And then they go into it to do the investigating and they said some rooms had not been touched in like 6-7 years. They were filthy.
Absolutely.
He'd got mice and cockroaches, rats in the house. But he'd worked with like the Beatles. He'd worked with all these people.
Yeah, it's just an absolute other world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, whenever you see a documentary, I mean, it's obviously abhorrent that these people can get away with stuff.
Yeah.
Because of their position in society.
Yeah.
But it's just unbelievable, the amount that you kind of goes on. And again, when I've watched other things, I can perfectly picture the house.
Yeah.
From a documentary that I've watched where they were investigating again, they'd like raided the home, but I can't for the life of me tell you what it was in relation to. But just their homes, their lives. It's a whole other world.
It is, and so I think you'll actually quite like this one.
Okay, I'll give that one a go.
But it's only something that I've started watching now, and I have also got really into. Have you seen the Lad Bible episodes? Like interview with
I've seen a couple of them. I like Soft White Underbelly, which I won't lie, I think Lad Bible kind of tried to do a bit of a similar thing.
Copied.
But I do find those super interesting.
So those I've been watching at the moment, and one came on as an advert the other day, and I thought, I'm going to have to write that one down for the podcast, and I didn't write it down, but it's the most recent one, and it looked really good.
Right.
So I'm going to have to look into that and catch up. And then on a lighter note, I have been watching. Well, actually, to start with, have you watched Bridgerton yet?
No, of course I haven't watched Bridgerton. I'm not going to watch Bridgerton. But before you do Bridgerton, one last thing, because I think we've both watched it. Obituary on Netflix.
Oh, have I watched that?
Because there was another one about a podcast murder. It was an Irish one.
Yes.
And then Obituary is the one where she is a journalist and writes obituaries for the local newspaper. Have you seen it?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, really good. That's one of those.
You've told me to watch that, and I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, so that's one of those where the setting and the scene and everything is probably similar-ish to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but the twists and the turns, let me tell you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to watch that.
Yeah,
if
really
I've not
good.
Already, because I feel like it does, the name does ring a bell.
And the main character, I'm horrendous with names, so I can't remember what you call her. But the main character is really complex. So there's sometimes that you hate her, and then sometimes you just feel like you're like, oh, I hope she gets a boyfriend. Like, do you know what I mean? Or like, I hope she's all right. So it's fascinating. But again, really cleverly written because you do, even with what happens, you have these different layers of how you feel about the characters. So I think it's quite clever.
Yeah, I need to write that one down so that I don't forget.
Yeah.
But I haven't been watching Bridget, and that weren't the one that I was going to say. But there is something called Queen Charlotte.
Right.
which you might have seen, and it is showing you how the Queen in Bridgerton, showing you her life story.
Oh, so like
And
a sub show.
Sort of a bit of a spin-off.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really, really good.
Okay.
And I quite liked the whole concept of it, and I hope they do some more of these little spin-off
Nice.
shows. So I've been watching that, and then obviously DCC, Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. Come on, it's always on in my house.
It is. But I love the way you like
how I
just
expect
DCC.
you to know what it is.
Yeah, just DCC.
Yeah, so
But
I've
yeah,
been a
it
bit
is
obsessed
always
with
that and Catfish. You just have like
Oh, I love Catfish. It's on
incessantly.
record.
Yeah.
It's because I've always got MTV on, and it's usually one of those that are on. So it's like, I don't like Teen Mom. That's always on. I don't like that. But
I
then
liked
it goes.
the original Teen Mum
Did
series,
ya?
but not the...
But then it goes between like Catfish, DCC. But when you come round to mine, I've always got the old episodes on the DCC just playing randomly.
Yeah.
And then on Netflix this year, they brought out the new. So it's the 2024.
Yeah.
Basically
okay.
2014.
So
new like reality show.
yeah. Do you know what I find? It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like this whole like seedy side of like Hollywood and stuff I'll never understand. Cults, that's another one where it's just fascinating, I'll never understand. And then things like, is it Dance Moms that used to be on?
Yeah.
With that woman who, and the parents are just like incessant about their kids being in, and that's a whole nother world that I'll never understand.
See, I was a dancer when I was younger.
Dancers.
So I've been in the dance
so you
mom
get it.
environment. Well, my
Yeah.
mum weren't like them mums, to be fair. But I have been in the...
It's just like when they're crying and having the hair pulled back to get into the grips.
Oh,
and
yeah, I've
things,
been in
and
that
I just, Yeah, I just
situation.
think, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
dance school from being 4 to something like 16 or something.
Yeah,
So I used to compete all the time, and it is very strict and competitive.
Yeah. Whereas me, meanwhile, I did ballroom and Latin dancing.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but I stopped doing any of the like certification type things.
Yeah.
Because you had to wear a skirt so they could see your footwork. And at that point, believe it or not, I was very, very self-conscious, super self-conscious.
Right.
And just would refuse to wear dresses or skirts because then I'd show my legs. So I just basically quit. Yeah.
You're like,
So
no,
I
I'm
was
not
like,
showing
no,
my
don't want to
legs.
do it. I'm not showing my legs to you. Didn't do it. So there you go. So I have got a bit of a dancing background myself.
Us two with our backgrounds.
I know.
Oh, I ain't even got anything else that I've been watching this week, actually. Have you got anything else you've been listening to?
I'm trying to think of like one-off things that I've just been... I tell you one case that's stuck in my head. So this goes back to the 10 to Life podcast that I was talking about with Annie Elise. So she was talking about a case, which again I've seen other people cover as well. But it's, again, I'm horrendous with names. I'll have to think about it. But a man was so calculated. It's another case of a man having an affair, and rather than just being honest about it and then leaving your wife, decided, I know what I'll do. I'll kill her. So
there's loads of cases like this. It's actually scary, isn't it?
It tends to be in America.
Yeah.
Not always, but so he basically was a really well-renowned doctor. And they'd been together for years. They'd got, I think, maybe 4 or 5 children. A couple of them were actually adopted. So they'd got a really like tight family unit.
Yeah.
And he then started having an affair with someone. Then decided, as a gift for his wife, he'd treat her to a facelift.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did she actually want this, or
No, of course not.
was this
but-
just what he thought she wanted? Or?
Yeah. Well, he was basically like, look, you know, you might feel more confident if you have,
Wow.
if you have a facelift. So I'll treat you. I'll treat you to it. And she basically
To be
said,
fair, I won't complain at that.
and then we see, I'd think about it probably. But she then said, well, he's, you know, working out at the gym and stuff. He's trying, so it might be a good thing. So she went ahead with it. Again, she'd got like 2 older daughters. They'd said like, don't do it, Mum. You're beautiful. You don't need it. Anyway, she goes through with it. And he was really specific with the surgeon that, you know, did the procedure about what drugs he wanted her to have prescribed for after the fact.
Right.
So like the painkillers and things like that.
Yeah.
But because he was a doctor and it's her husband, the surgeon was just like, yeah, okay, no worries, like, and went with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, she comes home from the hospital the next day. Everything went well. So I think it was her eldest daughter, Alexis, that had come over to kind of care for her and everything. And her mum was feeling good. She wasn't having any problems with like post-surgery.
Yeah.
And then 11 days after the procedure, the youngest daughter, who I might be wrong, but I think was 6 at the time, could have been
Wow,
younger.
that's young, yeah.
Really young, goes into the bathroom and sees her mum dead, unresponsive, and then shouts for help.
Wow.
So her husband, who's called Martin, then goes into the bathtub, takes his wife out, and then rings 999, and you can actually hear the 999 call,
Okay.
911, where he's on the phone and he's basically saying, I'm a doctor, I know she's dead, like she's not breathing.
Was he panicked or?
He was very shouty.
Right, okay.
And then he's like, I'm doing compressions. And then they're like, don't hang. And then he hangs up.
Oh.
And again, it's just one of those things where like he wasn't being, I mean, I've not been in this situation, so you don't really know. But they weren't getting to help her because he wasn't giving any information. He was just like shouting.
Just shouting at people, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought because he was a doctor as well, like, I know best, like...
Yes. Yeah.
Trying to tell the people who are just the operators on the other end.
Yeah. So she was then, they conducted a post-mortem, but it was actually found to have been due to natural causes. She'd got like major strain on her heart, so they thought that effectively she'd just accidentally drowned in the bath.
Right, okay.
The sisters, the 2 older sisters, but Alexis more specifically, did not believe that for a second. She was like, Mum's been absolutely fine. There's something going on. And from the off, pretty much, she said, Dad's got something to do with it.
Wow.
Yes.
See, that's actually crazy, isn't it? Because if you imagine, like, your mum and dad or my mum and dad,
Yeah.
like, I couldn't imagine something happening and then instantly thinking, yeah, that's my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting as well, because there's been, like, loads of interviews with her, and she said, you know, I was really close to my dad. It's not like...
Yeah.
She didn't like him anyway. She'd always been a real daddy's girl.
Oh, God.
But she just had this feeling. And as time went on, she was basically then campaigning for them to look into the fact that she thought that her dad was the killer.
Wow.
Got to the stage where her older sister didn't believe her. No one was really believing her. And she was like, right, I'm just going to have to keep finding as much evidence as I can. Then it came out that this nurse that he'd been speaking to moved into the home. But apparently that was just because he needed support and a nanny, and they weren't having an affair. Anyway, it all kind of came to light because, again, Alexis just did not give up.
Yeah.
She just stuck with it and ended up getting the other sister on side and said,
Right.
You've got to believe me. Because the dad ended up kicking her out when she said, I know it's something to do with you. He then sent threatening messages to his own daughter saying, like, I will win. You will never beat me. I will never be taken down. No one's going to believe you.
Another narcissist.
Yeah, and then at that point, obviously the other sister was like, yeah, I believe you. And she said it was really beautiful, actually, because she was like, and Dad underestimated, you know, a sibling's love.
Oh.
I was like, yeah, stick together. Anyway, long story short, it was him, after all, funnily enough. And it was a calculated murder because the drugs that he'd been specifically told to, or he'd specifically told the surgeon to use, were effectively creating a cocktail that would then lead to her death.
So did the surgeon who gave her the drugs get anything against him? Like, did he get struck off or anything? Because surely you should, even if a doctor's told you something, surely you should make your own decisions.
Well, I don't think that they were a worry in themselves, these drugs, but whether or not he was then spiking her with them, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was something because but it was actually the 6-year-old, the youngest daughter, that had like the key piece of evidence.
Right.
Because how he'd told like the authorities that he'd found his wife's body in the tub was not how this 6-year-old drew finding her mum.
Okay.
And it was the drawing that they could actually then compare. And then all of the evidence with the other woman. And so there was quite a lot in the end. But he was sentenced, and I think he got 15 years. He was 57 when he got convicted, and 15 years for first-degree murder.
Right.
But then got obstruction of justice on top of that as well. But yeah, that one was just a fascinating one. Because you think, again, what a like roundabout way of plotting someone's murder.
Yeah.
To just decide
It's really sad as well, that, because it's like your whole family, isn't it? And for those kids, like, I know they're not kids now, but
he'd even sent another one of the adopted children. Basically, had been like, you're going to go back off to where you've come from.
Oh my God.
And just put them on a plane. So then Alexis, the sister, had to fight to get her sisters back. Because when she first went for custody of them, they were like, look, we haven't really got any evidence, so there's no reason for us to take the kids.
Yeah.
But then she got reunited with all the sisters.
Oh, I'm glad it was a happy ending for the sisters, as in like they got reunited and the family was sort of a unit.
But just finding
together.
out that your dad isn't at all who he said he was. And then it turned out that he'd been like, there'd been previous offences where people had said that he'd misdiagnosed them, and all very complex. It reminded me of the guy that faked being a doctor. What was it called? Dear John or something. Not Dear John. Something John. You know which one I mean.
Yeah, I do, when I can't think of what it is.
And he was just a massive con man, wasn't he?
Yeah.
A ridiculous con man, like turning up in scrubs and not being
Crazy.
a doctor at all.
Yeah.
Madness.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so you're going to watch Obituary.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch something Homicide.
Homicide LA, I think
Homicide
it is.
LA.
Yeah. Just even that first episode, I just think you'll probably quite like that. Yeah. Find it interesting.
Cool.
And make sure you're following us on social media, guys. We beg this every time. We are begging you to follow us.
I'm fuming about it, for God's sake.
I am, because I just don't know how we've got loads of views and not as many followers. So just come on, guys. Just literally click it.
Do it for Annie.
Yeah. And I hadn't actually checked our reviews in a while, so I wonder if we've got any new ones.
Let's hope so. You best be getting
I
on
hope
there
we have,
before
otherwise
she
I'll
checks
be
again.
back telling you next week to leave us a 5-star review.
And listen, we've still got some stickers left. So, you know, if you really want something,
we'll give you a sticker.
Then we'll send you a sticker.
You can have a Grave Secret sticker in the post. Have you got anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
I think that's it for today.
Yeah, so thanks ever so much for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed us just having a chat and being a bit more informal. We will obviously be resuming case studies and things like that.
Yeah, we just needed a bit of a break from the hard-hitting stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you hopefully for the next episode.
Bye.
Take care.